What's up, everyone? Welcome back around to another edition of the Sports Report here on LBTV. As always, I'm your host, Jake Griffith. We took last week off, but we're back again, and it's time to talk more Lynx athletics. It's been a jam-packed week for Lindenwood Belleville sports here on the campus of Lindenwood Belleville and across the nation, as a lot of teams were in action. We have football to talk about. The Lynx traveled to Ann Arbor, Michigan this past weekend for their final game of the season. Your Lynx men's soccer team was also in action in the AMC postseason conference tournament championship game against Park. Men's basketball took on Graceland, and I'll also preview the back-to-back trip they'll have against Williams Baptist and Freed Hardeman. We'll also talk rugby. They're in the national tournament for the first time in program history. And we'll talk hockey and wrestling for the first time on the show. Pretty busy day for the Sports Report. Let's go ahead and start with football. As we said, the Lynx football team traveled to Concordia of Ann Arbor this past weekend to take on the Cardinals, and the Lynx come away with their final victory of the year. They match the program high in wins. 34-31 is the final. Cam Harris has a huge day, 228 yards. Just narrowly misses the 1,000-yard mark for the season, but the 228 is good enough to give him 4,031 yards for his career, so averaging just about 1,000 yards per season. Torian Austin also has a great game. He accounts for his 25th touchdowns of the year. He connects with Tavon Kurtz for the first touchdown pass of the day with just over 2 minutes to cut the deficit to 4. And then there was the big haul-in from Tyler McNair. Lots of Lynx get on the action. Walt Jackson had 4 catches for 56 yards. Tavon Kurtz led the way, 6 catches, 71 yards. Lynx win their final 3 out of 5 games of the year, and one of those losses came by just 1 point to St. Francis of Illinois. So great way to end the season for the Lynx football program. And we'll go ahead and bring on the head football coach of said Lynx football program in his first year, or just finished his first year, I should say, Coach Dale Carlson. And Coach Carlson, before we get to the meat of the interview and talk about the stats and break down the numbers, it's your first season in the books for Lynx football. How good does it feel to finish out the season on a high note?
Well, you always want to finish with a win, and so for our program, it was very, very important to win that last game, and I really felt that for our seniors who, came here and started the program 4 years ago, for them to get a win in their final game, I think was huge for their career and set them off. But winning your last game, it gives you momentum into the off season. It really helps for recruiting. There's so many positive things to take out of it, and the fact that as you mentioned, the last 5 games, our play really improved, and we were able to come out on top on 3 of the 5. We lost on the road by 1 to a very good St. Francis, Illinois team. It was a very, very good second half, and one that I think we can build on, for the future of Lynx football.
Now, before we went on the air, Coach, we sort of sat here at the desk and kind of chewed the fat and talked about next season for the Lynx. And, it may seem a little early to go ahead and start looking toward next season, but obviously, as you know, as the head coach, it's never too early to start looking forward. You guys do lose, as we talked about, some pretty good defensive linemen, Adrian Ming, James Brown. TJ Onstott does return. You guys do return a pretty solid core defensively. I know offensively, we'll get to that in a second. But defensively, let's start with that because the defense played great this year. What can we expect from this defense next year, just from the core we bring back?
Well, I think again, it's understanding schemes and how we want to execute our defense. It was a new defense that was put in the spring, and while they had gone through the 15 spring practices, we went through camp. It took us a little bit to understand the ins and the outs of our coverage schemes, our blitzes, just executing the defense. And I think we saw as the second half of the season approached, we played a lot better. And we're able to force some turnovers. We did some things that we weren't doing in the first half of the season. So, from a defensive perspective, it starts up front, and we're going to lose some really good, defensive linemen. James Brown, May, of course, Matt Paharchek too, who kind of bounced back and forth from playing down as well as playing up. Those are going to be some big shoes to fill, but we do have some good young, defensive linemen in the program, and we've got some players. Whether it was Childs or Dallas Richardson that played a lot up front, Quintez Binder is a really good young defensive lineman. I think's got a lot of upside. I think we're going to be able to, fill in, with the players that we have and try and take our defense, to the next level. But again, going through a spring, going through another training camp, just understanding what we're trying to do, I think is going to make us a better team next fall when it rolls around.
Now let's go to the other side of the ball. Let's talk offense. So you guys do return the entire offensive line, as we were talking about before we went on the air here. The quarterback and running back, lose both of those, both seniors, Cam Harrison, Torian Austin. What are the question marks around that going forward?
Sure. Well, at the running back spot, obviously Cam was our back, and as you mentioned before, 4,000 yards in a career. I mean, when you think about that, he came in here with a group of basically freshmen and young players and was able to be a pretty dominant player, for the 4 years of his career. Those are going to be some big shoes to fill. I feel like we have some depth at the running back spot. We were able to play, whether it was Jaleel Griffin, Billy Arndt, Armani Tufanga, we were able to play some younger backs that were able to do some things to complement Cam. Obviously, those guys are going to have to step it up, but I feel really good that we've got some depth, and we've got a couple other players that didn't play that I think have an opportunity to really be difference makers as we go through spring practice and get ready for the fall. Quarterback spot, obviously, that's wide open. Really, nobody took any really meaningful reps besides Torian Austin. So, our young quarterbacks that are in the program, we're going to have to compete. And, from a recruiting standpoint, we're going to look at a group of recruits probably coming in. They're going to have to compete at that spot as well. So, that's probably the biggest question mark, that we'll have going forward is who's going to be our quarterback.
Now, I want to talk about a name you did reference, Armani Tufanga, and we saw him take some pretty meaningful reps in the St. Francis of Illinois game. Had a lot of success against a solid St. Francis defense. Going forward, I know we have Jaleel Griffin, who is listed as the backup on the 2 deep. But going forward, do you expect next season Armani to take even more meaningful reps and potentially vie for that number 1 spot?
I think they all will. I mean, I think they all bring a little bit different skill set to it. Cam was a complete back. He could run inside the tackles. He could get outside. He could pass protect. He could catch the ball. It's going to be, do one of those players, pick up that role, or are we going to play, 3 or 4 different players and, kind of fit different situations to where we are in the game? And we can do that. I've done that in the past where I've had a feature back, but we've also done it where we've had, running back by committee and been successful in both of those situations. So, I just see all those guys getting better as they understand what is expected of them as a running back in our offense. I see them getting better, and as I said, I think we've got a couple of younger guys that didn't play this year that have a lot of tools too. So it's going to be an interesting competition as we go forward with the running back spot.
Now, I do want to talk about something for you personally from a coach's standpoint. You did come in late in the offseason this year after the old regime was let go. Now that you're going to have a full offseason of work ahead of you, does that make your job as the head coach a little easier? Because I don't want to ever trivialize anything and say it's going to be easier. But, when you come in late, sometimes things have to be brought up to speed a lot faster. You'll have a full offseason to kind of take your time and let things play out. Is that going to make it a little easier for you as a head coach?
I think definitely. From recruiting, obviously we've already set up our recruiting structure, and we've been working hard on that, even as the season has gone through. But, recruiting the players to fit the offensive and defensive scheme, that's a huge part of what we're going to do. Putting my stamp on what I believe our off-season program needs to be, and obviously because we play an up-tempo offense, and you play a lot of up-tempo offenses, so our off-season program needs to mirror, conditioning for that type of for those types of offensive and defensive schemes. So, that part of it is I think going to give us an advantage when we get back in. Obviously, having a full spring to put the offense in, another spring with the defense, put special teams in, that does make my job a little bit easier, just because there's going to be more familiarity from the players with what is expected of them, from a schematic standpoint as we move forward into next year. So it's going to make it a little bit easier. There's no question about that.
And one last question for you before we let you go, Coach. And you did talk about the up-tempo offenses. That's one thing, and this is sort of more of an X's and O's question. That's one thing we see a lot across college football nowadays, is a lot of the up-tempo sort of spread offenses. And since so many teams, football is a copycat game kind of, since so many teams are adapting that, does that make it easier on your defense, since you're going up, the ones are going up against ones in practice, they're playing against up-tempo teams? Does that make it easier for the defense, do you think, or does it make it harder sometimes?
No, I think when you have to face that type of an attack, day in and day out in practice, it does make things easier, just because you've practiced getting calls in quickly. Your signal callers on defense, if somebody's really going fast, have a better idea of what their checks need to be in those situations. Because really from a defensive standpoint, but the only thing you can do when teams are really going tempo is have some check for a formation, and then you got to go and execute it. So I think that does, because it just gets the players to be more familiar. It's something that they see every day, and that they're ready to go up and to play it. But you're right, football's a copycat game, and I'm not even so sure you can even say what the spread offense is anymore from what people used to call it. But and at some point people are going to adapt. Who knows? Somebody's going to start huddling again and try and slow the game down. And I'm not ready to do that at this point, but I'm sure that we'll see teams try to take that next step to try to improve what they're doing offensively, because defenses are going to counter it in some point. That's just the way football works.
It's kind of how a couple years ago everybody was running the Wildcat after Arkansas came out of it,
right.
And then now everybody's running the spread, and so it's pretty interesting to see how things just trickle down throughout,
right.
throughout
But
college football.
At the end of the day, though, all the stuff that people are doing is really somebody else has done it at some point, someplace, somewhere, and you're just kind of reinventing what somebody else has done. Because really, when you have 11 players out there, there's only so many things you can do.
Exactly.
You can do with them. But somebody will come up with a way to counteract what's going on with the spread, or the rule makers will do something if they decide that something needs to be done there. And then offensively, you'll adapt and come up with something else. I think that's just the nature of the cycle of the game.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the next season goes, and how the up-tempo spread offense for you guys works with the new quarterback. Obviously, open competition there. So I think it should be fun to see how Lynx football evolves under the new Dale Carlson era in year 2. So thank you for your time, Coach Carlson, for joining us at the desk all season long, and we'll let you get back to your recruiting for the off season and getting set for year number 2.
All right, Jake. It's a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Transitioning now to basketball, your Lynx men's basketball team has gotten off to a semi-rocky start with a new crop of players. They were in action last week against Graceland University, the team that they fell to in double overtime, 125-119. Lynx were at home against the Yellow Jackets of Graceland, looking to get that win back. A tough loss there for the Lynx at home in overtime. They dropped to 2-3 on the year. The offense really had a hard time getting going in that game, but as the Lynx dropped to 0-2 against the Heart of America Conference this season, they would travel to Missouri Valley this past Friday looking to pick up their first win against the HAAC, and they would get it as your men's basketball team puts on a nice little showing on the road against the Vikings of Missouri Valley. They win 82-79. They improve to 3-3 on the year. 4 players score in double digits. Shunquez Stevens has 15 and 18, and Stevens now 72 rebounds on the season total. He's averaging 12 per game. Nate Sims shot 51% from the field. TJ Jackson added 15 points. Sean McGee added 14. He had 4 of 5 shooting and 3 assists as the Lynx moved to 3-3 on the season. Let's take a look now at the conference standings for Lindenwood Belleville here in the American Midwest Conference. And with the Lynx currently sitting at 3-3, they find themselves in 7th in the conference behind Harris Stowe, who's actually number 1 at 3-1. Columbia sits at number 2, 4-0. Harris Stowe, the reason they're number 1, they've already played a conference game. They beat Williams Baptist earlier this season, so they're 1-0 in conference. No one else has played a conference game, as majority of the AMC is set to open conference play this weekend. So Columbia sits at 2. Central Baptist, a new team to the AMC, they sit at 3. Freed at 4. Lyon at 5. Mobap at 6. Park at Lindenwood Belleville all the way down at 8. Misspoke there, 3-3. Freed Hardeman, keep an eye on that team. The Lynx will play Freed Hardeman this coming Saturday. Freed has already suffered one loss this season at 3-1. And speaking of the weekend trip, Lindenwood Belleville will be in action for a sort of back-to-back road trip, kind of sorts. The Lynx will travel to Walnut Ridge, Arkansas to take on Williams Baptist this evening. Game starts at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. You can tune in at 6:30 and catch the Lynx Athletics pregame show. Devin Jackson will be on the call for 89.1 HD3 The Link. And then this coming Saturday, as we said, Lynx will travel to Freed Hardeman in Henderson, Tennessee. 4 p.m. start. They will take on the number 9 Lions in the nation. And speaking of Devin Jackson, Devin is live in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, here on the phone to talk Lynx basketball with us. So Devin Jackson joins us live via phone from Walnut Ridge, Arkansas. And Devin, you're there to call tonight's action between Williams Baptist and Lindenwood Belleville. Lynx went 1-1 last season against the Eagles. What can you tell us about how the team's feeling about tonight's game and tonight's action?
The team is feeling really confident about playing against this Williams Baptist team. They're not the same team they were a year ago. They're still pretty athletic up front, but they're not too worried about their three-point shooting, as they shot very well against the Lynx last year from the three-point line. So the key for the Lynx, some of what Coach Perrin was talking about is, make sure they take care of the ball. They want to have at least less than 12 turnovers in the game tonight, because Williams Baptist will make them pay if they turn the ball over. Another thing, they want to make sure, have movement in the zone and work the ball around a little bit more than they have against teams that played man against them, because they want to find the open holes and get their shooters open and knock down some open threes.
Now, Sean McGee, he's one player that's really come on in the past couple of games for the Lynx. He had 15 points against Missouri Valley College, 4 of 5 shooting, 5 assists. He is obviously starting at point guard with the absence of Chris Deans due to the foot injury. Has Coach Spinner really talked about him as far as how he's evolved and what they can expect from him on this trip?
Yeah, you can see, when I watched their walkthrough earlier today, I saw they were having, a conversation about the different strategies to go against Williams Baptist and the different things that they are going to try to do to break down the zone. You can tell that they're kind of building a relationship between the point guard and coach that's always needed to have a successful basketball team. And you can see Chris Dean as well chipping in when he can, giving them some tips about how to break down defenses and what to do on the court to see how to break down defense. So you can tell that Coach Spinner's starting to gain more and more trust into him and running the offense as you go along during the season.
Now, Shunquest Stevens, back to the Missouri Valley College game. Stevens had 15 points, 18 boards. He leads the AMC in total rebounds and also rebounds per game with 12. He has 72 total rebounds through 6 games. Obviously, rebounding off the charts. Coach Seedley thought that he would be a Conference Player of the Year type player. What are we expecting from Stevens in the post tonight? Is he going to be able to do his thing against Williams Baptist?
Yeah, we should expect more of the same from him. I had a 15-point, 18-rebound game last game against Missouri Valley, and you can expect much of the same, from Williams Baptist. They have a couple of big guys, athletic guys, but Shunquest Stevens, his effort and, his energy on the court should really help him, have another great game. And with them playing zone, he'll have a lot of open shots in the middle. If they can get it to him in the middle offensively and defensively. If he boxes out, he should hit around the average about 12 rebounds. So I expect them to have another big game here for the Lynx.
All right, let's talk Freed Hardeman, because that's going to be that's going to cap this trip off for you guys. You'll end the trip in Henderson, Tennessee. Freed Hardeman, the 9th-ranked team in the nation. Obviously, as a coaching staff, you don't want to overlook Williams Baptist. But is this team really circling in on that Freed Hardeman game? I mean, Dev, you and I have seen, we've called enough games the past couple of years. That's a really budding rivalry in the AMC. And the Lynx have 3 wins in 2 years against the Lions.
Yeah, you can tell a little bit that the coaches were talking a little bit in front of the bus on the way up here, and even in between shoot rounds and eating. After this Williams Baptist game, they're pretty much ready for Freed Hardeman. It's become pretty much a rivalry between Freed Hardeman and the Lindenwood Lynx. And to Free Hardeman, really Lindenwood and Columbia are two of the biggest rivals in the conference, an AMC conference. And that they're looking forward to that game, definitely, for sure. And Lawson, being a coach now, he reminisces about some of the games that they had in the past few years against them. And you can just tell the excitement around the team as we will be traveling down to Tennessee tomorrow. And after this game, all eyes will be on Free Hardeman.
All right, Dev, we'll get you out of here on this one. We'll still talk about Freed a little bit more. Obviously, the last game you and I called, I believe that was in March 10th in the AMC Championship game. That was a playoff-type atmosphere. You also came with me on the trip when we called the Freed game the first time Lindenwood and Freed played earlier last season, the 81-58 beatdown the Lynx suffered at the hands of the Lions. Obviously, revenge is a big factor in this game, am I right?
Yeah, always a big factor. You got people return from last year, Mingo, Colonel Walsh, and Chris Deans. They remember that game vividly, and that was an ugly game for the Lynx. Couldn't get anything going offensively and couldn't stop anybody defensively. That first game, the second go-around when they traveled to Freed again, played much better, and it really came down to the last minute or so of that game. So revenge will be an ultimate factor. Not only that, just the rivalry they've built over the past couple of years has really, allowed them to circle in this game and always have, their eyes set on this game. So I expect the Lynx, when they play against Free Hardeman, to come out with a lot of energy and a lot of passion, really have a rivalry-type game, maybe even a playoff-type atmosphere once again.
All right, thanks for your time, Dev. Good luck on the call tonight, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your time, Devin. And as we take a quick look back at last season, the Lynx, they went 1-1 against Williams Baptist. They won one in Belleville, but later on in the season, they lost one in Walnut Ridge. Lynx also went 1-2 last season against Freed Hardeman, picking up the win on Senior Day last year. But they fell in the AMC Championship game, 83-78, and they were blown out earlier that season, 81-58. To Freed Hardeman, so tough loss there last season. Lynx look to avenge the conference championship game loss again this season as they will take on Freed. Lynx have a pretty good record against Freed Hardeman, obviously dating back 2 years ago. They upset Freed twice in the same season. 3 wins against Freed in 2 years. That's more than really any team in the AMC has against the Lions. Transitioning now to rugby, as your rugby team is in the national tournament for the first time in program history in their first season, and they traveled to Cottage Grove, Wisconsin for the WIIL tournament. They went 1-1 there. They beat Northern Michigan, but they fell in the very next round to Wisconsin Whitewater, so that was good enough to give the Lynx a second-place finish. Keep in mind, the top 3 teams travel to the national tournament. And they did make the national tournament, obviously finishing inside that top 3. They took on Missouri S&T in their the first round of the national tournament for rugby. And the Lynx do win that game as well. And they will travel to the round of 16 to take on an opponent yet to be determined. So great start to, and close or nearly great finish to, for the Lynx first season of rugby here on the campus of Lindenwood Belleville. It's been a great season all season long for Coach Pat Clifton's team. We had Coach Clifton at the desk earlier this season to talk rugby. A lot of friends of the comm department here on the Lynx rugby team, most notably Christian Paletti, and Christian and the Lynx rugby team are doing a great job looking for their first national championship in program history. Obviously, again, first year of the program, so it's been a great start and season all long for the Lynx rugby team in their first year. We'll take a quick break, but when we return, we will have hockey and wrestling as well as men's soccer who were in action this past week live here on the Sports Report. Stay tuned. This is the Sports Report on LBTV.
Experience a little bit of Germany close to home at the second annual Authentic Open Air German Christmas Market featuring European vendors and German food and beverages. November 27th through December 23rd at the Belleville Public Square.
Welcome back to the Sports Report. Wrestling took the mat this past weekend in their first home meet against Hannibal LaGrange, and it was a pretty solid outing for the Lynx wrestling teams, both men's and women's. Great start to the 2015-2016 season. Michael Chapman in the 149 weight class claimed an impressive 15-0 victory over Dakota Huss for the Trojans. At 133, Denny Kleinschrott, 15-4 major decision victory over Raymond Bushnell. Joe Robinson, 12-3 major decision win over Jeremiah Reed in the 174 weight class. Other two victories for the Lynx, Wardell Morgan at the 141 and also Andrew Bennett at the 157. They won by default. With the win, the Lynx improved to 1-0 in dual meets for the year. Trojans fall to 0-2 in the early season. The Lynx will return to action when they take the mat in the Milliken Open. The tournament begins this coming Saturday at 9:30 a.m. at the Griswold Center in Decatur, Illinois. So congratulations to the Lynx wrestling team for getting that huge team victory over Hannibal LaGrange, 1-0. Great start to the season. Always great to pick up a win, no matter what sport it is, first game of the season. Transitioning now to hockey, your men's ice hockey team were in action for a weekend series against Waldorf College, I should say. Lynx sweep the Warriors. First game was a 4-2 decision for the Lynx. 3 goals in the opening period as they took the 3-0 lead on Friday night. Tyler Weber scored his 3rd goal of the season on an assist from Jared Bassard and Kyle Bishop. Brady Bruneau and Tanner Duffney also were the other 2 scorers for the Lynx. Warriors were able to cut the deficit 2-1. Alex Fleming scored that at 17-14. But the final period was closed by Brad Edwards scoring another goal. Assists from Michael Lingmo and Daniel Skoglund for the Lynx on the power play. And then in Game 2, Lynx win 4-1, powered by 2 goals by Daniel Hussey. Lynx complete the weekend sweep. They get their only goal of the opening period by Hussey, his 13th of the season. Lingmo and William Peterson, the assist at 13:27. Warriors, though, tied the game in the second period 1-1 from the Matt Liggett goal, but in the second period at 12:02, Lynx reclaimed the lead. Duffy ripped one home for his 4th goal of the year. The assist from Zach Crawford, 3rd period goal, picked up by Hussey, his 14th goal of the season. Lynx close out that period with the 4-1 win. Lynx, with the wins, improved to 17-3-0 on the year, while the Warriors dropped to 12-8-0 on the season. The Lynx hockey team will be back in action against Grand Valley State, who are ranked number 2 in the ACHA Central region. The 2-game series picks up 7 p.m. on Friday. That one will take place in Georgetown Ice Center in Hudsonville, Michigan. Second game, 3 p.m. FaceTime puck drop, or face-off puck drop, I should say, Saturday, 3 p.m. So good luck to the Lynx men's ice hockey team in action this coming weekend, and congratulations on their 2-game sweep of Waldorf College live at the Ice Zone. And finally now to men's soccer. We open the show with a Lynx win in football. We're going to close the show with a Lynx win in soccer as your men's soccer team were in action in the AMC Championship game, looking for back-to-back trips to the national tournament and back-to-back AMC Conference champions. Last season they were champions as they lost only 1 game to Missouri Valley College all year. A little bit of a different story this year. Lynx have lost a handful of games this season, but it didn't matter. They travel to Park and they take down the Park Pirates 2-1. Guillermo Chinchilla and Sebastian Reyes scored for the Lynx in the comeback victory against Park. They win the AMC title. They surrender the first goal of the game 40 minutes in when Tim Kloster put the Pirates ahead, unassisted goal. The Lynx had 2 defenders that got sort of tied up in the box, and Kloster just had an easy chip in for the game's first tally. But from there out, the Lynx defense played stout, and they were able to record the 2-1 win. As we said, Chinchilla and Reyes the scorers. Reyes scores the game winner off a corner from Alberto Barroso. He has 3 goals on the season, but that's probably the biggest goal of the season and probably of his career. Nicholas Nicolaisi late in the game shut the door for the Lynx, helped fend off the Park Pirates 2-1. Lynx will appear in their second straight national tournament, and they become the first team in Lindenwood Belleville history to go to 2 straight national tournaments and appear in 2 national tournaments overall. The Lynx also had the selection show this past Monday where they received the word that this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. they will travel to Northwestern Ohio, Northwestern Ohio, I should say. The number 6 team in the NAIA, 16-4 on the year. They will travel to Northwestern Ohio and take on Northwestern Ohio in the first round of the NAIA National Tournament. Last season, the Lynx fell 1-0 to Lindsey Wilson in penalty kicks at Lindsey Wilson in the first round of the national tournament. So good luck to Dan Hogan's Lynx men's soccer team. Again, that is a 2 p.m. start time, 1 p.m. Central Time, as all times are Eastern. The game will be broadcast on the link, so don't forget to tune in at 1 p.m. Central Time to 89.1 HD3 to catch the call of Lynx soccer back in action in the national tournament. I will be on the call for that one, so don't forget to tune in. It should be a good one. And again, good luck to Dan Hogan's men's soccer team. That's all we have here for the Sports Report on LBTV. For everyone here at LBTV, I'm Jake Griffith signing off. We will have next week off for Thanksgiving, but the following week we will return for the final episode of the semester. Don't forget to tune into that. Should be a good one. We'll see you next time.